and trouble, and you need some love and care. Nothing's going right. Close your eyes, think of me. Soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there. Oh man, you got friends, so many. When the sky above you should grow dark and full of clouds, and that old wind begins to blow, keep your head together and call my name out loud. Soon I will be knocking at your door. You just call my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come run to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there. I will. Ain't it good to know you've got so many friends when people can be so cold? Oh, they'll hurt you, they'll desert you, they'll take your soul if you let them. But don't you let them go out my name. Everybody sing here, and you know wherever we are, got a friend. You got a friend.
I had the good fortune to work with Doug on quite a few occasions over the last 10 to 15 years, and it was always more than good fortune, it was a privilege. I can recall fondly one occasion at his house we were chatting about music therapy, which is a field I had got into in 2000. I told him one of the unexpected joys of the work was discovering new songs. I was working in a care facility which had been asked to provide music for a family whose loved one's passing was very near. A gathering similar to what we have today, paying tribute. They asked if I could play a song called Let the Rest of the World Go By. I didn't know the song, fumbled my way through the changes as they sang. Doug asked to hear it that night and we played it together. There was no fumbling at all from Doug as the music flowed effortlessly. He just knew. And what a great song, he said. And I found out from Lee Moore that they used to play it actually at the remembrance services. The song's got a wistful romantic quality, and I'd like to include Mary in this dedication to Doug. There's a lyric in the song about finding perfect peace. Finding perfect peace. It's my belief that the beloved friend whose life we celebrate today has found it. The rest of us will just have to wait our turn. With someone like you, how good and true, I'd like to leave it all behind and go and find some place that's known to God alone. Just a spot to call our own. We'll find perfect peace where joys never cease. Out there beneath the kindly sky, build a sweet little nest somewhere in the west. Let the west of the world go by. Well, listen to this, Doug.
Every time when we did go out to play, when we sang this song, I was thinking of Doug the entire time. This is Claire Lawrence, by the way. Of course you knew that. And my computer is trying to find his way out here. He's having a Hello Cleveland moment. Oh, there, he's moved a microphone. And what I didn't know, I knew that Doug had written this song, but I didn't know that he hadn't written the lyrics. And I have a letter here from Carolyn Borsman, who is an old girlfriend of his, who had written the lyrics, and she wanted me to read this. She said, I lived with Doug off and on during our early 20s and traveled with him during his time playing with the Fifth Dimension. Because of Doug, I heard and met so many musicians here in the U.S., and in the U.S., and what a joy. But one of my deepest memories of Doug's music is when my mother died tragically in Victoria, and Doug took me to his parents' place. Late at night, he played the guitar so sweetly, so beautifully. I felt deep healing. That's his music for you, wildly wonderful, deeply moving. Later, when Doug left, I wrote the lyrics to Wingless Bird about him. The words seem relevant to his leaving us now. Bless his soul. You to feel beautiful, so you spread your rainbow feathers for all to see. I wanted you to be free. Now you spread your wings and flown away from me. If only I could reach you, I do not know how to live outside an earthbound plane. I do not complain when you say the sky is where your heart belongs, and I love you like a wingless bird loves his song.
skied with Doug a lot, so we got wet together. I know that. And we used to do a show. I did a couple of gigs a year for 30 years with him. And we used to play up at Big White. And he would look across at me. He just finished a solo. He would look at me and raise his eyebrows. It was my turn. It was like painting next to Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo. He had just finished his glorious stuff, and he'd look at me and raise his eyebrows, and I had to play. And I would like to present a song that we played together every year at least twice. This is a song called Peter and Lou by a gentleman, Craig Wood, who used to be Papa Bear's medicine show back here in the early days. Peter and Lou would skate out on winter's frozen lake, circling around all their friends, laughing wherever they went. They're catching the morning plane, sending the rest by train, hanging their skates on the wall, taking their turn, that's all. With brushes and canvas and macrame handcuffs and Bessie Smith singing the blues in a chorus for Peter and Lou. Loneliness as they wait, hanging around all day. I'm standing alone on the ice, get to wondering if maybe they've been right. So I'll catch a morning plane, send all the rest off my train. I'll be leaving the ice there to fall. I'll be taking my turn, and that's all. And if I should miss them, I'll just go back and listen to Bessie Smith singing the blues in a chorus for Peter and Lou. La 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 la. La 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 la, your turn. La 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 la. Oh, if I should miss him, I'll go back and listen to Bessie Smith singing the blues in a chorus for Peter and Lou. Thank you.
Stay by my side. We will make love. recorded together, and it was produced by Doug and Bill Buckingham, and that was Doug's beautiful playing that you heard. And I'd like to invite Mary up to the stage.
My name is Mary Edwards, and I was so fortunate to have Doug as my husband, to hear him playing music constantly in the basement. I'd like to thank Bill Buckingham and Heather and Jamie and Jen and Zane and all the people, Valley Hennel especially, because Valley's been holding Doug's hand and my hand through all of this. Yeah. So, I'd like to thank Anne Brierly for being here, and Jen and Zane, my daughter Jen is so special to me. I love you very much, darling. I'd like to thank Gary and Jill Passmore. They're also family to Doug. It meant so much to Doug, and I'd so much love to thank Lee Moran, who is my husband's very best friend in the whole world. I would like to tell you all that my husband died on the supermoon, and he died on that night at 5 o'clock in the morning after the supermoon, and it was November 11th, and it was always my husband's true custom, no matter who and how great my husband was, he always played November 11th, and he would go to the Legion and go in and greet all the soldiers and play him and Lee. And it was always a great thing to be able to go there and have a beer and just see these guys lining up and enjoying the music. And, you know, he always did little gigs like that just so he could practice even to play, because he just wanted to practice all the time. And I would be cooking dinner and he'd say, well, I'm going down to the basement. So that meant I could rock and roll while I was making food, and the floor would vibrate underneath me, and you know, anybody that knew my husband, he was really a quiet guy. He was very, very humble, and you couldn't even, you know, give him a compliment. He was the kind of guy that was like, brush the compliment off, brush it off, you know. He was a very, very special person that way. And if you got to know him and got to be in his circle of friends, he knew you for the rest of your life. He knew who you were, and he got to know you deeply, and that's why so many people are here today. They loved my husband so much. He was so lucky. He played with the best geniuses in Vancouver, everybody he played with, and I'm telling you, he used to get called a lot for gigs, and people would send him music, and they'd phone him back, and he'd go, no, I don't want to do it. And then I'd say, but Dad, don't you want to do them a favor? He'd go, no, they can't sing, they can't play, I don't want to do it. You know, and then he'd go and watch a car show. You know, so if he played music with you, you knew that you were somebody special out there, because he wouldn't have spent 2 minutes with you. Okay? I'm telling you, that was my husband. You know, my husband really loved to have dinner parties at our house, but small ones. We had a 12 capacity table, and we'd invite people over, and he really loved my cooking. So I could tell, you know, he'd be getting a little bit itchy, because he was not a social man. He stayed home all the time, and the only time, a lot of the time, unless we would get invited out a bit here and there, he wouldn't go out. So we would go and have these little dinner parties, and it really meant so much for him to have people over and just sitting and eating turkeys at our house. Turkey was like the big thing that I always cooked, even in summertime sometimes. So a lot of you people had to endure a really hot house. Mary, it's sweating in here. I know, but we're really going to have a good turkey. But Mary, isn't that something you do at Christmas? Well, no, we're not religious. So anyways, I don't think a lot of you people out there knew that my husband was autistic. And his way around it was, don't talk a lot. So he had advice for people that were autistic. He especially had a lot of advice for Sean Hounslow. And he used to always give him heck and say, Sean, don't go on and on and on with the story. So, you know, he knew how to fix these kind of problems. Autism, he said, you know, just be quiet. But that's where his brain went, you know. It's like, well, if I talk too much, they're going to notice, so I'll just play music. So he really spent a lot of time practicing music in our basement. And some of the music that would come out of there, I'm telling you, it was the grooviest rock and roll. And he knew how to play those leads just perfect. And I wish you guys could be there right now to hear some of the stuff that came out of our basement. And I would go, I don't think people know what he's doing down there. Like, you know, so one day I said to my husband, you have to teach Lee more in some of that music that you're playing. And then Jerry Adolph comes over with this Strangers, or no, it's the Shadows. So he comes over and all my husband does is play that freaking CD. It's those leads and the Shadows. It's got, please, take off the CD. Well, my husband analyzed that thing to the point of he learned every part on that. Well, I'm telling you, no one can play the Shadows like my husband. He leaves them in the dust, okay? Believe me. Another thing that my husband really loved was our dogs. He loved our dogs, and any animal, we would go places and there'd be hyperactive dogs running around in parties or whatever, and they'd all come over to my husband, these dogs, and before you know it, they'd be melting at my husband's feet, laying on the floor, now in my husband's lap, now hanging out at the party. So my husband, we're trying to be at this groovy party, and he's hanging out with the dog. It's like, Dad, you didn't come here to hang out with the dog. We're supposed to be here talking to people. Well, he was. He was sitting there talking to the dog. So that was really good. You know, I would like to say that to conclude this really fast, even though I go on and on like a haggly goose. One thing about my husband was that he wanted to explore the whole universe. He always used to say that to me. We would go out in our 1967 Camaro, and he would say, well, one day I'm going to explore the whole universe. And I'd say, well, Dad, how are you going to do that? Like, you know, you don't go anywhere. And he said, well, one day I'll be dead, and then I'll be able to do it. And I said, well, how are you going to do that, Dad? And he said, well, I'm learning how to meditate. So he thought, you know, if he got into meditating, he'd figure it out. So I'm sure that he did. And I think he's out there exploring right now, but maybe he's in here with us partying too. So I'd like to thank everybody today for coming, and I hope I get to say hi to everybody in here. And I'm sure you guys have all made Doug very, very proud. Thanks to MJ Moore and my daughter Jen and Heather Aston and Valley and David Graham, and I know I'm repeating myself, so I'll get off. And thank you, everybody. I'm giving all my love to you, and I'm going to miss my husband terribly. I'm going to miss him so much, and thank you.
So I'm going to start with some thank yous so I don't forget them. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mary for taking such good care of Dad, especially over the last few years, which have been really hard. Thank you. I want to thank my husband Zane and my mom and my best friends Jen and Bruno and Malia and Ron who are here tonight for helping me get through this really tough time. And thanks for being here tonight. And thank you to all the artists who have put this night together. Thank you, Valley, Heather, Bill, and David Graham, and all the musicians who are here. Thank you so much. It's really beautiful. And my cousin's Ryan Cam, who did some heavy lifting this morning. Thanks for coming. So now on to my dad. So when I was a kid, my dad was the guy who loved going out for brunch, loved swimming, especially in the ocean, who taught me how to read using Archie comics. He taught me to tell time, played badminton with me in the yard for hours. He taught me how to ski. He picked me up from school in a bright yellow convertible, which was great. And I've always loved bragging about my dad to my friends. When I was 5, I loved telling all my friends that he played in the pit for Joseph in the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And soon after that, he joined Chilliwack, which I quickly realized was really impressive to all my friends' parents. And in fact, most of the gigs that I went to of my dad's were Chilliwack, so now I know every word of all their greatest hits. But I know that the part of my dad's career I was around for was a really small fraction of what he actually contributed to music. And I'm realizing that more and more, thanks to all the beautiful stories and tributes that you, his colleagues and friends, are sharing with me. It's really awesome. My dad always used to tell me that the secret to a happy life is to find something you love to do, get really good at it, find a way to make money at it, and just keep doing it. Because he always would say, if you love your job, it won't feel like work. And for him, it was just that simple. He didn't overcomplicate things by thinking about fame or following trends. He just loved to play, and he kept honing his craft his whole life. He was an inspiration to all of us in his own gentle way, and he was an amazing dad as well.
About 11 years ago, situation beyond my control, I had to do a Lullaby album, and that presented 2 problems right off the bat. The first one is, how do you tour a Lullaby album? You got your pajama parties. You have silent recess at the Montessori schools. That's it. But the other problem is I realized about halfway through that lullabies were not in my mankind's domain. There are very few lullabies that are sung by men. And there I was, old gravel guts singing lullabies. And I realized that I needed to have something that would shimmer and would open up the portal that would allow my music to reach those little, beautiful babies. What do you call them? Doug Evans. So I called Doug and I said, Doug, I'm doing a lullaby album. Here are the tracks. Can you do something with me? And he said, okay, I'll listen to the tracks. And then he called back and said, I just got off the road with Chilliwack. I don't know if I can do lullabies. But he came out to our house, and Valley and I put him in a kayak, took him out to the reef, threw him in the ocean a couple of times, brought him back in, and he laid down some of the most beautiful, beautiful tracks you'll ever hear. And so I'd like to do one of those lullabies that we did on that album. Please stand with me. see. Just lay your burden down. Lay it down. How nice and easy now. You don't have to carry no more. Lay it down. And next time I'll find your heart too. Next time I'll find your heart too. Yeah, I tell you what, you get that album by track 4, you're under. See that? Yeah. I've been the fly on the wall watching this gathering come together because I married one of the gatherers. David Graham, brother, you are a prince of men. And it took a lot. I mean, putting this many incredible musicians on one stage is like herding marbles. And it takes a lot, but everybody came through, everybody said, oh yes, and here we all are. And now I would like to bring my queen to this stage. Come here, Valley.
Loved in this theater 33 years ago.
Sin City.
Whoa. This is like being a deer on the highway. Wow. Who can imagine a world without Doug Edwards? I certainly cannot. And instead I choose to imagine the kind of band that is forming in paradise. The day before Doug died, Leonard Cohen. 2 days later, Leon Russell. And it's been 13 years since we gathered here to say farewell to Robbie King. And lately, doesn't it seem that more and more of our peers are going over the garden wall? Paul Horn, Leon Bibb, Lovey Eli, Gada Lorma, Steve Pugsley on my birthday this year, January 8th, Janet Wright days ago, Bob Murphy, and so many more. And the last time I went into the world with a healthy Doug Edwards was to Bob Murphy's memorial. And I'm sure that's actually the last time many of us gathered under the same roof. So it makes me glad to think of all these fine artists waiting for us on the other side, hopefully with us tonight, silently playing along. But what a drag to be left behind. What a drag to watch your friend decline. These past months of Doug's decline have made me so mindful of how important it is to make the most of these moments together. These moments, this evening. And some spooky stuff has happened around Doug. One of the things, turntables turning in his basement when no one's been playing his phonograph. And tonight, this happened to me. I wasn't going to say this, but as I was greeting you at the door, 3 different people came up to me and said, "Valerie, your bra is showing." And we better pin it. And then I looked down and I went, "Oh my God, this is the Doug Edwards Memorial Bra." Now, you may think that odd, but we were invited to the Hip Hop Awards in Las Vegas, and none of us had anything to wear, because we were 5 of 300 people, and they were all black, and they all had high heels laced up to their knees. So we all went shopping, and we all bought, Doug bought a suit, Mary bought a dress.
I got a $10,000 dress.
Well, I got a $200 bra. So, and it just kept showing, so have a good look. I'm wearing it, guys. And every time I do, I'll think of you. So I worked with Doug for 43 years. I taught him to sail, and he taught me to produce records. I think that's a pretty fair tribute. And he played on virtually every record I've ever made. Nothing was too small, nothing was too unimportant for him to show up for me. So he didn't ever talk about himself, though, so who knew that before I even met him, he had toured with Fifth Dimension, been on the Ed Sullivan Show, and opened for Frank Sinatra in Las Vegas. The only reason I know this is because one day, almost 20 years ago, exactly to this day, December 2nd, 1996, I interviewed him and asked him about his life, and that's why I know. By the time we met in 1973, Wildflower was already climbing the charts, and he was deeply engaged in making music with Anne Mortifee. The 3 of us went to Abbey Road Studios in London to make her first album, Baptism. I'll never forget looking down in that vast studio, and there would be Doug all by himself with his guitar on the Fender Rhodes. And Norman Newell producing. Norman Newell, who had produced Streisand and Garland and had a certain affection for the letter M. He wrote the song More Than the Greatest Love. And so when he met Anne Mortifee, it just fit right into his vocabulary. Doug was the linchpin of Anne's mighty trio, Robbie King, Doug Edwards, Tom Hazlitt, who played for 6 months sold out on Seymour Street with her first one-woman show, which along with Jacques Brel actually totally transformed musical theater in Vancouver and established the Arts Club and the audience that they have prospered with to this day. And if you were ever graced to hear that trio, you would never forget it, because never did 3 musicians make more music behind a singer than that. Then came Celebration. Robbie wrote those arrangements in Doug's living room. He lived there for 2 months and wrote those arrangements. Then the Hometown Band, during which I had Robbie and my son. Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, with Olivia Newton-John, Wolfman Jack. What huge lives we got to have. And how much music Doug Edwards played. I think if there were 2 people that Doug would want me to speak to this evening, one would be Lynn Rouge Partridge, who taught us all the value of a copyright and taught us how important it was that we hold on to the rights to our own songs. She's not able to be here, she sends her regards. The other is David Richardson, who wrote the words to Wildflower, and I am sure that almost all of us have never seen him. And I would just like, David, could you stand up, please? Can we have some house lights? David Richardson. I think we've been in the same room together maybe 12 times in our life. Dave Richardson and I, and yet my friendship with Doug, can we turn it closer? My friendship with Doug had so much to do with Wildflower, the hit song whose copyright he gave away, and which I, pretending to be Nancy Drew, went and got back for him. I know you want to know how? Well, you're going to have to read the book. Which means I'm going to have to write it, but I couldn't write it while Doug was alive because he simply did not like the spotlight to be upon him. When he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I set up some interviews for him. And I'd tell the CBC all about it, and they'd call me back and say, Valerie, you're going to have to do the interview because Doug will not talk. Seriously. He did not like the intention. As David Foster said, Doug Edwards is humble almost to the point of annoying. So over 4 decades, I have been graced to shepherd the more than 75 versions and the countless samples. I mean, come on, Tupac Shakur, Kanye West, who'd have thunk, huh? You can go to wildflowersong.com and actually see the whole list. And Wildflower saved my bacon as a single parent. It's blessing me into my elderhood. But I think the thing Doug might want you most to hear tonight is about the day that Wildflower was recorded.
We were going to record the song, and everybody knew the song, but nobody really seemed to know just what to do, how to really make it, how to do it. So we started off and tried to play the song, and there was David on piano, Robbie on organ, me on guitar, and Steve and Duras. And so we tried to play for a while, and first of all David says, well, I don't really know what to play, I think I'll just go in the control room and listen, and maybe I'll add something later. So okay, so another 10-15 minutes goes by, and we're trying things, and so Robbie says, well, gee, I'm not really sure if I know what to play. Maybe I'll just go and listen and add something later. So, I was being deserted, by leaps and bounds. And so I thought, well, gee, if it's going to happen, it better happen now, because if anybody else leaves, we're really stuck. So there was just me and drums and bass. And I figured, well, it's up to me. I mean, if this thing's going to get off the ground, I better do it now. So we played it, and it was, as far as I was concerned, it was a run-through to see if we could get it off the ground. And fortunately, the engineer was on the ball enough to have the machines rolling. And we did it once, and it was perfect from beginning to end. It was just the 3 of us, but it had everything, all the main elements of the song were captured in that one performance. And so when it was over, everybody in the control room was jumping up and down. So we went in and had a listen, and it was great.
Doug, some people would find it a bit bemusing that you could have played with the Fifth Dimension, written a hit song, yet get such joy out of playing weddings.
Oh, well, it's just something to do, Obviously, I'd rather be out playing than doing most anything.
And it really doesn't matter whether it's in a million-seller band.
No, music is music, and the quality of the music does not depend on how many records you sold or how many people are listening. Some of my best musical moments have been in little bars with maybe one other person and maybe half a dozen people in the room. If the music works, then that's what the thrill is for me. And I like to play every bit as much now as I did when I started when I was a teenager.
Robbie and Doug go back a long way. Doug went down to LA to go to music school, Grove School of Music for a year. They hung out a lot, actually. Yeah, every day. Brian, as you know, is one of Doug's oldest and dearest friends for sure. Jerry with Chilliwack and several others, and Andreas played together for the first time on November the 11th. And it was great. We had a great time. Mary and Jennifer were there. Here, I'm starting to clear up. Anyway, I had breakfast with Mary a couple days later, and she said, "You know, you're singing Wildflower." And I went, "Yeah, right." You know. Anyway, the rest is history. And here we go. Count us in.
1, 2,
An honor.
3.
She's faced the hardest times you could imagine. Many times eyes fought back the tears. And when her youthful world was about to fall in, it's time her to slap the shoulder for the weight of all the fear. Sorrow no one hears still rings in midnight silence in her ear. Let her cry, for she's a lady. Let her dream, she's a child. Let her rain fall down on her. She's a free and gentle flower, growing wild. If by chance that I should hold her, let me hold her for a time. If allowed just one possession, I will pick her from the garden to be mine. Be careful how you touch her, she'll awaken. Sleep's the only freedom that she knows. When you walk into her eyes, you won't believe the way she's always waiting for redemption at the home. And the silent winds blow. Only we can hear, and so no. Let her cry, for she's a lady. Let her breathe, she's a child. Let the rain fall down on her. She's a free and gentle flower, growing wild. Let her cry, she's a lady. Let her breathe, she's a child. Let the rain fall down on her. She's a free and gentle flower, growing wild. She's a flower, growing wild. She's a flower, growing wild. I love that man. He's still here. We know this.
Thank you, everyone. Fantastic. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Andrew.
To live, not just survive, though the road be long and the river wide, though the seasons change and the willows bend, though some dreams break, some others mend. We were born to give and born to take, to win and lose and to celebrate. We were born to know and born to muse, to unfold our hearts, take a chance and choose. We were born to love, though we feel the pain. When the ship sets sail to return no more, though a door be closed and we feel the pain, to chance it all and to love again. We were born to reach, to seek what's true, to surrender all, to make each day new. We were born to laugh and born to cry, to rejoice and grieve, just to be alive. We were born to hope and to know despair, and to stand alone when there's no one near. We were born to trust and to understand that in every heart there's an outstretched hand. We were born to love, to be right and wrong, to be false and true, to be weak and strong. We were born to live, to break down the wall, and to know that life is to taste it all.
Black, Ed Henderson, Jim McGilvery.
Brian Hickam.
Before we wrap it up, folks, I'd like to say some thank yous to the wonderful Arts Club tech crew who were so patient with us throughout this whole plan. My wonderful colleague, Valley Hamlin. All the wonderful performers.
It's been an incredible night, beautiful night. So glad to be here. I just want to say, I don't know if you remember, but in the video of Doug, there was a shot of him and Jerry in these two gigantic chairs. And that was in...
Burn.
Huh? Medicine hat. It's medicine hat. Anyways, maybe they moved them, I don't know. But we used to have a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Doug was in the band for 20 years. And Chilliwack's been through all kinds of different iterations and stuff, but
We had a great time. Doug was the groove master, solid as a rock. I've never, I don't know, played with anybody that solid. I got the idea of working with Jerry and Doug and putting the band back together again because Roy Forbes did a recording that I played on and that he produced. And Doug and Jerry were the rhythm section, and I had such a great time playing with them because they were just so great. So when I decided to put the band back together, I got the two of them, and Doug came along, which was really nice. And he's kind of like a father on the road too, it's just amazing. Listen, to have my own father on the road, it's great. Anyways, we all love him very much. Here's a song we played a whole lot of times. That's the right word for it. Yeah. Why is that?
What's it sound?
Let's get a nice sound there.
A little less tinny and a little rock.
It's kind of honky. It's kind of honky. It's not very warm. Oh, well, that's nowhere near as honky as I'm going to sound.
Okay, all right. Karen on? Yes.
Satisfied, see the morning from the other side, and when you close your eyes, sleep comes fast. When you fly, but you never say you need some rest, yeah, you need some rest. Faces, yeah, when I And make it good, and make it cool, and fill the river, fill the pool, quench the thirst of every fool and every sage and every sour soul who's lost so much he doesn't know he's needed. And in vain I tell you, we're all the same. They stand saying that it's not for real, 'cause we're the ones who get to steal. And sure, I don't know, perhaps you're right, but even so, if there's no audience, you know that we know. told you we're all the same as they stand. Same man is not for real, 'cause we're the ones who get to steal your show. And I don't know, perhaps you're right, but even so, if there's no audience, you know there ain't no there ain't no show. Richardson. Thank you all.
So, ladies and gentlemen,